Hey everybody, welcome back to She Aced That. I'm your host, Alyxandra, and today we're diving into what coaches really look for during tryouts and throughout the season. We'll talk about what actually matters and how you can make sure you stand out during your next tryout. If there is anything that you get from this podcast today, is that when your skills do fail you, your attitude can save you. You do not have to be the hardest hitter, the softest setter, the strongest server, or the most perfect passer to make a team. You do need so much more than that. And most of the time, I would take a girl who is the best teammate and has the most amazing attitude versus the most skillful player that brings her team down. It just does not work. I did want to point out my sweatshirt. I am wearing a U.S. Olympic volleyball sweatshirt that I actually got at a club 18U national tournament that I was coaching at. It was a qualifier in Philadelphia. And I swear, anytime I have purchased merch, any of the tournaments, I always remember either something about that tournament or even something on the personal side of things that was occurring during that time. And for me, this sweatshirt definitely represents a lot of personal things I was going through. And I just remember how much volleyball helped me through anything I ever went through. When you are on the court or in the gym, it just takes away everything else going on outside, or at least I hope it does for you. And that's really what this sweatshirt represents to me. I just wanted to shout out the tournament merch. So with that, let's get started and talk about what coaches are actually writing on their clipboard. I'll give you some Alyxandra Pro tips for your tryouts, depending on what position you're looking to try out for. I will say it's easy to check out during the conversations of positions that you don't think you'll be trying out for, don't think you'll be playing in. But keep in mind that the more adaptable you are and the more things you know about other positions allows for potential increases in playing time. It shows that you are adaptable to a coach and willing to learn. And it shows that you're willing to put yourself out there for your team if you were needed in a specific role. So I do highly recommend to listen through all of these positions. Obviously, feel free to skip through the ones that you don't think pertain to you, but it could be really helpful and beneficial to understand all of them in different ways, even if you're not super proficient in one or the other. Where I started my volleyball journey by setting and ended up as a middle, it was helpful to have the setting background, obviously, but I didn't know that I would be a middle the rest of my volleyball journey. Take that into consideration that where you think you might be, that's not always going to be the case. It's good to be well-rounded. There are some obvious things that you can imagine what coaches write on their clipboards as they're evaluating you through tryouts and throughout the season. A few things that are really critical to understand, and they're completely external of your volleyball skill set, is that coaches value hustle, positivity, and coachability above anything else. If you're sprinting for every ball, if you're helping your teammates, and you're always being open to feedback, that will help you stand out in any situation you're in. My Alyxandra Pro tip to you, be the first to volunteer, try to be the first in line, be the loudest. Even if you don't know one girl in that gym, it says a lot about you if you're cheering for others. And lastly, be a really engaged listener. I remember being in my 7th grade tryout. That was my first tryout ever. I always made eye contact with the coaches as they were talking or explaining a drill. And they started to catch on and then would always make eye contact with me while they were talking because they understood how engaged and excited I was. So the more engaged you are, kind of limit the side conversations. You can have those after the tryout, but that will really make you stand out from the coachability standpoint. To get into positions, I'm going to start with the passing position. So if you're a defensive specialist or a libero, there's two main things that will be your superpowers in this role. It's volleyball IQ and communication. If you're the loudest person in the back row or on the court in general, that is huge and will make you stand out more than anything. Take charge of the back row. I don't care if you're not even the libero on your team long term. If you are a DS, you really need to be able to communicate effectively with the girls next to you. And make sure your teammates feel just as confident standing next to you as you'd want them to make you feel standing next to them. Coaches notice players who organize and support their team. Alyxandra's pro tip, if you're a back row player in any fashion going into tryouts, is once you step on that court, make sure both girls next to you are on the same page as you of who is going to get what ball. Look at the girl to your right and tell her, I'm going to take this seam. So if the ball comes between us, I will be the one to, make sure that it doesn't fall between us. And if she thinks opposite, then you guys can discuss that in a quick manner. The last thing you want at a tryout is for a ball to drop between you and another girl. I know it's scary, I get it, but make sure you start openly communicating. That will make other girls feel more comfortable too. Please do not let a ball drop between you. Now let's take a quick deep dive into setting. Coaches are looking for decision making, communication, and leadership, not just perfect hands. During tryouts, show that you can run the offense confidently. Talk to your hitters and make smart choices. Don't just default to the same hitter every time. If you are vocal, giving feedback to your hitters or trying to connect as best you can with them and just having that open communication, it really can go a long way. And stay positive, even if you are making mistakes or you feel like you're not connecting with these hitters. You've most likely never set these girls before, so don't expect chemistry to already be there. See the tweaks that you have to make in order to make both the hitter look good and yourself. If you're seeing that girls aren't really used to maybe a quicker tempo ball, keep it higher for them. Allow them to adjust and give them room for error because that makes it look like you're able to be adaptable. If you're willing to try setting, even if it's completely new for you and you've never set a day in your life, that willingness to step up and learn will stand out. Like I've said 1,000 times, I started setting because I did not know what other position to go to. And it was so good to have that foundation going into being any type of hitter or back row player because you know what that other teammate is expecting in the setter role. Coaches want setters who can lead and adjust on the fly and really keep the team connected. The setter is the quarterback of volleyball. You are running the entire court. And it's up to you on how your offense is going to run. It is your responsibility to also give feedback back to the passers. If they're not getting their passes exactly where you need them to be, that is your role to give that feedback. And you're simultaneously working with your hitter. Sometimes setting seems like there's right or wrong, but in reality, there isn't. Every team has something different that works best for them. My first club season when I was setting, I actually had to set from the middle because nobody could hit from the middle on my team. And also due to the trajectory and angles of my sets, especially a back set, I was literally a middle setter, which actually worked wonderfully for us with what we were given. You never know what things you need to adapt to regardless of what position you play. Alexandra's pro tip for you for your upcoming tryouts, if you are setting and let's say you're doing a scrimmaging drill or something where you are able to set up the rest of your hitters, make sure you're openly communicating with them on the numbers that you're expecting to set them. So let's say the outside's expecting a high 5 ball. Every time before the serve comes over the net, make sure you tell that hitter 5. Make sure it looks like you're communicating with them. If you pull your shirt and show them a number and look at each hitter and do that, the coach will notice that and they're going to be like, wow, she's willing and able to run the court. And that is your role. So look at each hitter if you have the time. It doesn't have to be every single point or play. You can check with them what they want to hit and are willing to hit. If the outside girl only wants the high balls, fine. But that doesn't mean you stop telling her the number. It will make you stand out through your next tryout, even if you've never set before. Going in with that confidence, even if it's the high ball for every position, it just shows that you have a high volleyball IQ and are able to run the offense accordingly for your team. Now let's talk about hitting positions. I will start with the middle. The two main things for a middle to keep in mind is your timing and connection with your setter. That is everything to make middle successful. Focus on quick transitions between blocking and hitting. You're blocking left and right and also transitioning back very quick. Make sure that you are confident in your muscle memory and use your volleyball IQ to outsmart the middle on the other team. That is the middle's main role, is it's you against the other team's middle. And it's really important to understand the ways that you can throw them off by either yelling for the ball really loud or trying to fake them out as well. Looking like you're going to go up for a strong attack and then really just tipping it right over the middle. Key. Alexandra's pro tip for you as you go into tryouts, trying out as a middle, is be quicker than you think you even are being. Make sure you're really hustling and being loud, communicating with the outside and right side as you're going up to block. Make sure you're being the one saying, ready, ready up, and that will make you stand out. As an outside, what are coaches looking for? Outsides need mental toughness and adaptability. Be ready to play any position as an outside. That might seem crazy because a lot of outsides only want to play outside, But you also have a really unique scenario where you can play all the way around on the court. If you have a passing ability, then you could hit front row and pass back row, and that will make you stand out during tryouts. You're covering your teammates, so if the middle's going up for a hit, you're covering the block. Lastly, ensure that you have short-term memory and are able to bounce back from mistakes. It's so easy to get in your head after getting stuff blocked over and over. Even after you shank a pass, you can go up and get a kill and that team can rely on you. Alyxandra's pro tip for tryouts is to make sure you're changing it up, hitting cross and line when going up for hits. Don't just keep hitting cross, cross, cross. My secret weapon is go up to the coach and ask them if they prefer you to block cross or line. That will also make you stand out because that means you're actually thinking about the defense. You're showing you have the volleyball IQ and you're asking for some directions. If you don't know, for line, when you block, you're normally closer to the antenna. Make sure you're not touching the antenna, obviously. And then cross is a little bit over, so you're giving them line to hit. Lastly, for hitting positions is the right side. Right sides are crucial for blocking and balance of the team. Communication with your setter is number one. Since setters are most likely backsetting to you, you're going to be constantly having to provide feedback, which can get frustrating at times, but the best right sides are the ones who have that solid communication and chemistry with their setters. You have to be ready for backsets and adaptable. Being a right side is not easy. It's probably one of the harder positions in volleyball in general, but it's something that is so critical for the team because you are blocking the other team's outside. It's great to have a big right side hitter and blocker. If you are a lefty, that is something to think about because you have a much better angle, so having a left-handed right side is always a plus, as well as the setting position too. You're coming in at a different approach than an outside, so sometimes it feels uncomfortable to get that muscle memory down, but long-term, it's a really beneficial position, and not many people do go for that, so it's always something to have in your back pocket. Alyxandra's pro tip for you is to make sure that you are talking to the setter, and if the setter's not connecting with you, because depending on what tryout you're at, some setters might have their backsets perfect, and then some are still struggling with them. If it looks like you're not getting the sets that you're looking for to be able to show that you can attack, make sure you're leveraging smart tips and roll shots and maybe even hitting it off the block, or go to the outside position to show that you can adapt and get those kills. Sometimes, again, depending on the setter, it's a little bit difficult. Change positions if you see that you're not able to show your skills. Last thing I want to talk about, I guess it's not technically a position, but it really in my mind is, and that is serving. So serving's about consistency and confidence. Developing a simple pre-serve routine and focusing on getting the ball over with control are two really critical aspects to serving. Make sure your serve routine isn't too lengthy. I prefer to keep it under 5 seconds. I think there is a rule now that it can't be over 8 seconds or else then the point will go to the other team. So definitely keep that in mind. What I did for my pre-serving ritual was like hit it on the ground 3 times, spin it in my hands, and then it was already over the net. It is kind of a mental decompress of the pressure that can come with serving. As you progress, learn the various ways of your serve and start to aim for specific spots. It's really good to be able to serve to a specific position on the other side of the net. Alyxandra's pro tryout tip for you is to make sure that you are leveraging your most consistent serve. This is not the time to pull out your jump serve that you're not confident in or starting to practice. You have the rest of the season to work on that with your coach. If your standing serve is much more consistent and you're able to get it over 90% of the time, I would always leverage that. If you're in between overhand and underhand serving, you can definitely take some overhand serves during the tryout. But if you are able to consistently underhand serve, that is normally probably the better way to go. Honestly, I've had plenty of girls freshman year of high school underhand serve, and I even had one that made JV, not the team I was coaching, but they had a wicked underhand serve, and it was so much more consistent than their overhand serve, and they would get on the longest runs because the other team wasn't used to that tempo of a serve. Don't always think of it as a bad thing if you're not there yet, but really rely on what makes the most sense for you when you go into that tryout. I do want to give you a quick tip regarding overhand serving. It can be a process. Even to improve your serve overall, there's a few critical drills that can help you before tryouts. If you're unable to get it over, definitely start close to the net and gradually move back as you gain the confidence. For some reason, our brains do a weird thing when we're behind the baseline and seeing how far it is over the net. Our bodies sometimes just don't connect. Start closer, and once you do make that serve over, keep stepping back, and I promise you in no time, you'll have your overhand serve behind the baseline nailed down. I will say consistency matters more than power. Nail down the toss prior to even practicing serving. I always recommend at home or during warm-ups of the tryout, practice your toss over 20 times. And I know that's like, okay, well, it's just my toss. It doesn't really matter. But your toss changes the trajectory of your serve tremendously. And not toss too high. People don't always understand the criticalness of a toss. But once you get that down, then the rest will come pretty quick. Those are my pro tips for each position as you go into tryouts. The next thing I want to talk about is other things that you need to take into consideration external of your skill set. Keep your grades up to stay eligible and open doors for scholarships. You could be the best player, and if you have the worst grades, there's a lot of collegiate teams that will not take you just based on grades. It's also important to be mindful of your social media presence. What you post can follow you and most likely will, even if it's in group chats with other girls. Obviously, it's always fun to decompress and talk about tryouts or practices with your friends, but be cautious. It is important to build a positive relationship with coaches and your teammates. The reputation you have matters both on and off the court. To this day, I keep in touch with every single one of my coaches I've ever had, regardless of how effective they were in teaching me and my skill set or how I learned best. I firmly believe that connections in life are everything. You never know when you're going to need to ask somebody for something or vice versa. And I really believe that the more relationships that you keep positive and don't burn those bridges will really help you in the long run. If you are going into a tryout where you don't know one girl, go up to a few and introduce yourself. If you know a couple girls' names and have somebody to look at, whether you just shanked a pass across the gym or got a 10-foot kill, it takes the pressure off a little bit and makes you feel a little bit more comfortable. It is hard to put yourself out there. I feel like a lot of girls, when it's quiet and you're all looking at each other, it's like, okay, who is going to step up? And am I going to be judged for going out of my way and saying something? But in reality, it will do you so much good for going out of your way and introducing yourself than bad. Most girls there don't know anybody either, so it makes them feel more comfortable too. I will never forget freshman year open gyms. There was a new girl. She did not go to middle school with us. She transferred to our high school. And she was a good volleyball player, but she didn't know one person. I remember going up to her at the first open gym I saw her, and I was just like, "Hi, I'm Alyxandra. What's your name?" And to this day, she'll always say that she remembers me being the first person to go up to her and talk to her, to invite her to go to the first football game with me and my friends. Ever since then, that always stuck with me, how little of an impact I thought I was having, to how big of an impact it actually had on her and our friendship forever. Tryouts are tiring, and this is the one time that you need to put it all out there. Your attitude, your efforts, and your teamwork is what matters the most. Your gear and appearance are secondary. You don't have to have the best volleyball gear. You don't even have to purchase certain shoes or certain spandex. We get so caught up in that. What will make you stand out during that tryout is be kind, be coachable, and give your best effort at every tryout. Coaches want players who care, hustle, and support their team. Continue to adapt, push yourself. And again, if you got anything from this, yes, certain skills are important. There's certain tips that will help you stand out per position at your tryout. But if anything, just remember that if your skills fail you, your attitude can fully save you. If you shank a pass, if you whiff a ball, go after the next one like you didn't. I promise you, everybody else has much shorter memory than you are allowing yourself to have. If you do want more than what we discussed today, definitely check out the Tryout ebook that is in the description below for any extra drills and confidence tips. It shows how to communicate with coaches effectively, navigate the social dynamics of the sport, and it even has a planner page that will help your prioritization with school and sports. Good luck at your next tryout. Thanks for joining She Aced That, and I'll see you again next Wednesday.